This is a fascinating story. President Trump's latest attack on big tech came via Twitter yesterday. I want to show you what he wrote. He said that Sundar Pichai, this is the CEO of Google, was in the Oval Office working very hard to explain how much he liked me, what a great job the administration is doing, that Google was not involved with China's military, that they didn't help crooked Hillary over me in the 2016 election, and that they are not planning to illegally subvert the 2020 election, despite all that has been said to the contrary. It all sounded good until I watched Kevin Bernanke, a Google engineer, say terrible things about what they did in 2016 and that they want to make sure Trump loses in 2020. The president concluded by saying, all very illegal. We are watching Google very closely. Now, Google coming out in response saying, the statements made by this disgruntled former employee are absolutely false. Joining us right now to break all of this down and what it means for Google, what it means for the tech complex. Alex Kentrowitz is the senior tech reporter at BuzzFeed, who's covered a lot of this. And Natasha Tiku, from a senior writer at Wired, is joining us as well. You know, we've had the Peter Thiel comments in the past couple of weeks about China and its relationship with Google. And then we had Steve Mnuchin come on and say, actually, no, there's not a problem there. And then it seemed like the president was with Google, and then he turned around. What's happening here, Alex?
Well, look, there's an election coming up in 2020. And I think that the president is aware that these platforms are powerful. They are a place people come to look for news. And, you know, I don't think that there's like a bunch of people sitting in a room saying this candidate should win, this candidate should lose. But if Trump can get into the back of the people's heads at Google and, you know, when they're thinking about taking down a video or they're thinking about how they want to figure out the way that Google News works, if they can think, hey, how is Trump going to respond to this in a tweet, that's a victory for him. Because, you know, I think that it's in Trump's interest to, like, have the content be kind of freewheeling. Like we saw on Facebook, there was a lot of sensationalists and fake news in 2016, and Trump won, and maybe he wants the same thing to happen this time around. So I think he's just trying to get into the back of the heads of people inside Google and the rest of the tech companies so they treat this type of content a little bit more tentatively.
Natasha, is this a pressure campaign, or do you think there's more to it? Meaning, do you think this is the beginning of a real effort at regulation?
As far as Trump's tweet, I think it's just the latest cycle of, as Alex said, you know, putting pressure on these tech companies, you know, rather than like this resulting in some legislative change. It just shifts the balance of power the next time Google is asked to take down some right-wing content on YouTube.
What do you think goes on inside Google on a day like yesterday when these tweets come out? Do you think it does change their behavior?
I think that this is a reflection of Google's kind of unique internal company culture, where they have these mailing lists and they encourage employees to discuss political issues, sensitive political issues, internally, and that allows for a dynamic where, you know, a single Google engineer, Kevin Bernanke, can, you know, result in a tweet from Donald Trump and Sundar Pichai having to answer for these allegations, even though they're not substantiated.
Natasha, do you think there is a left-leaning bias at Google in particular that could result in the product actually yielding leftward-leaning views, whether it's at YouTube or search results or what have you? Is there somebody who's actually hands on the keyboard that's kind of pushing a leftward agenda?
I think that this allegation kind of fails to make a distinction between the personal politics of Google's workforce and, you know, the kind of shrewd politics of an $800 billion corporation. I think that, you know, the lack of clarity about how exactly Google functions, who makes those decisions and why they make those decisions is part of the reason why these critiques are able to get traction. But I don't think that Google makes decisions based on the politics of its workers. I think that they make, you know, they look for engagement and they look for avoiding bad press. I would say those are much more overriding concerns.
And Alex, aside from the personal opinions of individuals, there's also the Google algorithm, and there's some argument that could be made that Google should be more transparent with that algorithm and how that is constructed and whether the algorithm itself has any sort of bias. Could Google do that in any way?
Yeah, I think they could. I think there's a lot more that all tech companies can tell us. You know, there's this saying in politics when you're explaining you're losing. I think you can reverse that for tech. When you're explaining, you're winning. The more people know about the way that these tech companies work, the less exposed they are to the type of criticism we're seeing emerge in the past few weeks. If we understand these systems better, then these sort of allegations from ex-employees won't carry as much weight. Because we'll actually have a better idea of how they work, as opposed to somebody from the outside saying, hey, there's this black box and it functions this way. Let us know how the platforms work, and then the companies will be in much better situations.